The Atelier series is one of my favorite modern RPG series, so of course when I saw that a huge crossover 20th anniversary game was coming, I was pretty excited about it. So much so that I saw all of the different news articles about the different characters coming, but didn't read that much into what kind of game it was. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. A lot of you guys probably thought it was going to be a typical Atelier RPG just with a huge cast of characters. And boy was I surprised when I saw a sim game that was kind of like Cities Skylines Atelier Edition. But hey, let's get past all that and go forward. This is my review of Nelke and the legendary Alchemists, Ateliers of the New World for the Nintendo Switch. The story of Nelke centers around the character of Nelke, an aristocrat that's sent to a small village to build it up and basically make it into a city. Though she also goes there with the intention of investigating and looking up ancient artifacts known as sage relics. And even more so when alchemists from other worlds start popping up in the village with no way of knowing how to get home. So Nelke and the Alchemists then work on building up the town as well as investigating the nearby area to try to get everybody back to where they belong. Now the story of this game I wouldn't say is bad, but it's far from the series' best. I do really like the fact that you've got all of these different character interactions from different franchises, like some of the older protagonists like Via or Marie interacting with the newer protagonists like Rorona or Firis. And it definitely has some really funny and interesting moments, but I feel like there isn't as much of the fun modern comedy Atelier is known for versus just normal interaction scenes. When it comes to gameplay, instead of the typical Atelier formula, this game is a town building sim with some light RPG elements thrown into the mix. So instead of wandering around dungeons and fighting monsters all day every day, you're going to be constantly building up and maintaining a town while doing a little bit of dipping out in dungeons here and there. But the first thing we need to go over is the character roster. This is a 20th anniversary game for the Atelier series, and as such there is representation from pretty much every single game of the series, not only in main protagonists but also a considerable amount of side characters. This brings the total character count up to well over 100 even without considering the new characters that were made for this game. Now the way progression works is really built around the town sim elements and not the RPG elements. Every quote-unquote turn in the game basically has two phases. You have a build phase where you can build and basically manage everything in your town, from what your ateliers are creating to what your shops are selling. And then you have a vacation phase where you can interact with all the characters to see all those special events, take requests from them, or go out on investigations where many of the Atelier protagonists can join you with walking through a dungeon, gathering materials, and fighting monsters in turn-based combat. Now this system sounds pretty simple, but there's a lot more to it than that. Every single character you recruit into your town, be it an alchemist, a side character, or someone exclusive to this game, has stats showing you what they're good at and what they're not good at, and it's extremely important that they are assigned to an area they're good at. If they're really good at the weapon shop, you shouldn't put them in the general store. It's all about understanding what everybody's good at and making sure they're in the right spot to be as productive as possible for the time limitations I'll talk about later. And with all of these sim elements, let me just say that this is probably 90 to 95% sim game and maybe 5 to 10% RPG. You don't really get much control over your characters. Even when you're out on investigations and going through dungeons, traveling through the dungeons is more or less the party walks along the dungeon picking up materials as they go. Now you do get a little bit of control when combat starts, but that's more on the new characters and not the old characters. All of the previous protagonists you recruit into the party will do support skills on their own. You can only put in commands for the new characters. Even the alchemy system is a little different, where you just tell everyone in your ateliers what to make instead of mixing everything together yourself. And the one thing that really brings this down is main tasks. In atelier fashion, there are time limitations on all of the tasks that you have to do across the game. And they're more sim-based, like increase your population to 1,000, or make this specific type of new building, or have this much sales in this amount of time. Now the game having time limits on these tasks isn't necessarily a bad thing. The bad thing is how strict and unreasonable they are. Many of these main tasks require you to do very specific things and have plenty of time to do them. For example, a lot of the phases that have you increasing population require you to have almost perfectly optimized resources, and if you don't, you'll inevitably fail and get a game over, forcing you to restart from the very beginning of the game and get all the way back to where you were. The further I got into the game, the more I had to strategically plan out every single task and make sure I had completely mastered all of the gameplay systems before I even attempted. I think many of them are unreasonable because of how little time you get and how little breathing room you have between being efficient and doing what you want and learning the game. From personal experience, I was stuck on one of the early tasks for over 12 hours of constant retries before I finally figured the game out and was able to move forward. And speaking of hours, let's talk about content and length. Like other Atelier games, you're going to get quite a bit of time out of them, even disregarding the 12 hours where I was constantly screwing up. You'll probably be spending at least 30 to 40 hours on this game before you reach the end. And after you do reach that final day, you can basically just either go into New Game Plus and replay the game from the beginning, or just keep going and building up your town afterwards. Now let's get into presentation, which is pretty good overall, but does have a blemish here and there. The graphics engine looks very similar to Atelier Liddy and Suel, but a bit more polished and refined. Not a lot of blurring, not a lot of jagged edges. When you do get 3D cutscenes, they look very nice. And when it comes to performance, the only nitpick I have is a few frame drops here and there when you're using specific skills in combat. Outside of that, it plays very nicely. Now let's dive into battery life, which isn't anywhere near what I was expecting. Considering this is a sim game where most of it is just menus, I was expecting a ton of battery life. But Nelke and the legendary Alchemists has a battery range of 2 hours and 18 minutes on high settings, up to 2 hours and 41 minutes on low settings. It's certainly acceptable, but much less than I was hoping for. Now, in conclusion, Nelke is a very different kind of Atelier game, focusing much less on alchemy and RPG battles and more on building up a town and seeing all of the character interactions from its huge roster. And it's a game I'm really conflicted on. On one hand, I love all of the character interactions and all of the characters they crammed into this game, but I really don't like how unreasonable many of the time limitations are. It's definitely something serious fans can enjoy if they're good at sim games, but pretty much need to master that system to even go forward and get to the end of the game. Reviews to Go rates Nelke and the legendary Alchemists for the Nintendo Switch a 6 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below or head to the website at reviewstogo.com.